generate amazing UGC images and videos using this AI agent. This agent enables us to use the latest and best image generator, Seedream 4, and we can go through and use the best AI video generator, Google's Veo 3. And the best part, we're only going to be paying for what we use.
This jumper is amazing. It's so comfy and looks great.
This agent's going to enable us to be able to capture a request. Maybe you upload an image. We're then going to store that request in Airtable. We're then going to go across to our platform called Replicate and generate images for Seedream 4 and Google's NanoBanana. We're then going to take those exact images and be able to generate a video using Google's Veo 3, store all of this in Airtable so we can use it in the future, and then be able to check out those videos straight away. In today's video, I'm going to walk us through exactly how you can build that AI agent, as well as compare Seedream 4 with Google's NanoBanana on its capability against 4 different use cases. So let's jump straight into the video and see exactly how the AI agent works. So to trigger this agent, we're going to come up to here and execute the process. This is going to open up a web form for us to enter the request. We're going to put a prompt in here that's saying that we would like to turn the coffee cup into a hyper-realistic UGC video with a young woman. I'm now going to upload our reference image. There we go. And all I need to do is press submit. And then we go through with a nice and simple 5-step process to capture that request, come through and store it in our Airtable, then generate those videos with Replicate and the images as well, and we only pay for what we use. So now if I come across to our workflow and we refresh it here, we can now see that we've captured that request that we're going to go through and use. We've got the coffee cup ready to go. We can actually see that it's now populating the AI image prompt in the background. If we come into here, I've broken it out so there's some sub elements to make it a bit easier to see exactly what's going on. If we come across to the first sub workflow, this is what's going to be happening in the background. We're going to be analyzing the image, generating a prompt, going through and generating that image with Seedream, as well as Google's NanoBanana. We're then going to have all of that request come back into our main workflow here, and we're also going to have the data stored into our Airtable. So as you can see here, we've now got image 1 from NanoBanana, and we've got image 2 that's come through from Seedream 4. So now we've got both of those images generated, we want to go through and have the video as well. So we're going to come back across. You'll see we're executing a new sub workflow. We're going to come across to that workflow. And as you can see here, we've got quite a bit going on. Now, first of all, we're going to be analyzing the images that we've just generated, because if the AI doesn't know what the image looks like, it's like asking a chef to prepare a meal without telling him the ingredients. So we're making sure it understands what that image looks like. We're then going to go through, generate a really good UGC prompt, then send it across to generate one with a Seedream image, and then go through and use the NanoBanana image to get the output. You can see here, again, we're only going to be paying for what we use. So it's going to be $3.20 to use the fully fledged Veo 3 model, the best performing one, or you can cut that cost in almost half by using something like Veo 3 Fast. So once this process has completed, it will come back into our n8n workflow. We'll then be able to download all of those videos and store them into Airtable. So we're just going to wait for this to come back and I'll show you the outputs. So there we go, and now we've got all of that data back. So let's come back across to our Airtable. come across to the right hand side here, and we'll see we've got both videos ready to go. So let's do the Google NanoBanana first. And there we go, we've got both of the outputs back incredibly quickly. Now, if you're wondering how that video works, we're going to walk through it in a bit more detail now. And if you want to learn more about AI and automation, definitely come across to our community. We've got lots and lots of resources and workflows ready to go like this, as well as masterclasses on how to get the best outputs possible. Also, make sure to subscribe to the channel. We've got lots and lots of content on the way. So, how does the workflow actually work? Well, once we receive the request, we're going to be capturing it all with our eForm in our n8n environment. To be able to use this and store this in Airtable, we need to convert it from the binary file, i.e. a JPEG file, into the base 64 string, which is basically a long string of text that explains that image, so we can go through and store it later on. We're then using our Airtable base to be able to store all of this information. And as you can see here, we're also just changing the status to be in progress. Once we've done all of that, if we come into Airtable, as you can see here, we'll now have our request captured as well as the request ID. If we come back across to here, we're then going to be using a detailed request in here that's going to be sending all of that information across using the binary file that we've converted here to store it as an attachment in our reference image column. So coming back across, that's how we're then able to store the image in here nice and easily so we can use it in the future. What we're then doing is going to trigger the first sub-process. And what this is going to do is actually generate that first set of the images for us. So if I just come through to the execution we've just had completed, I'll walk you through it step by step. So what we had is the URL of that file stored in Airtable, the reference image, get passed across to our AI agent, which is here. What we're then doing is coming through and analyzing that image, and we've got a long description in here that really explains what we're looking for to get the best outputs. We're using the URL that's been passed across, like you can see on the right hand side here, to put it into OpenAI to analyze what it is. And that's where on the right hand side here, you'll see that we've got a really nice clear description on what that image is. The reason this is really key is because the way that AI works is the better the input, the better the output. So if you want a really good image to be generated, you need to give it a really good input prompt. The same is in effect for if we were to go through and do the videos later on. So now if I come out of here and we come into the AI image prompt, what we can see is we're passing in the request from the customer at the start here. So again, just pull that across. And then if we come up to the top, we're also telling it the description of that image. And as you can see on the right hand side here, that's how we're then able to bundle the customer's request and the image description together to be able to get the output, which is going to be our AI image prompt. As you can see here, we go through and detail out lots and lots of information, and it's been optimized for UGC to really get the best output for each image. If we come out of here, we're going to be using ChatGPT 4 just to go through and do that. We're then storing the prompt that we've used in our Airtable account, which is in here, so that we can reuse it and recall it in the future if we need to. And that's going to be so we can track what works, what doesn't work, what we like, what we don't like, so we can improve the outputs over time. If we come back across, we're then going to get into actually generating the images. Now you'll see here that our output from Seedream is going to cost us around 3 cents per image. The same from NanoBanana is going to cost us around 4 cents per image. So not a huge cost difference at the moment between the two platforms. we're going to be using a HTTP request to send off the information and get that image generated. If we come down here, what we'll see is we've got the API key being sent across, and if I open this up, we're sending across the prompt that we've just generated in this part here, and we're giving it the image URL. So if we come back to when executed by another workflow, i.e. this first part of the process here, once it's uploaded that reference image into Airtable, it's then sending it across in this part of the process. So now we know what that reference image looks like, we can use it, and we can send it off as an actual file to be used to generate an image. Now, as you can see on the right hand side here, we've got all of that information back. If I copy this output here and open up a new tab quickly, you will actually be able to see the output that we got the same way. So this is how we can go through and generate images nice and easily. We're going to touch on some of the pros and cons of Seedream a little bit later on. We do the exact same request with NanoBanana. But you're probably wondering, well, where are we sending this request? And the answer to that is using a platform called Replicate. I absolutely love this platform. I think it's incredibly useful for a lot of use cases you have out there. We only need to pay for what we use. So if we come into here and we come down to image, you'll now see that without having to pay for any subscriptions, we've got access to the Google model, we've got ByteDance, Ideogram, Gwen, we've got Flux, we've got lots and lots of different ones in here that we're able to use as we need. So we wanted to use Seedream 4. So all I do is click on this and it will open it up for us. Now this is a really easy low-code interface that we can use, but what we're doing in our use case is actually running it with an API. So you want to come down to HTTP request, copy this across, and it will set it up. But in the actual workflow, we've got that all ready for you straight away. So if we come back out of here, one thing that I did like about Seedream 4 is that we've actually got a lot more control over the output than we do with NanoBanana at the moment. We can also get a guaranteed higher quality output because we can specify we want the size or the quality to be 4K. If I come back to our image models, we can then come down to where we've got, say, Google. I'm just going to come into all of their models so we can do NanoBanana. And as you can see here, we've now got access to NanoBanana. So we're able to put our prompt in there. You can add multiple images and the JPEG output, but it's not got as much control over that actual output that we would get from Seedream, like I just showed you. It also shows you up the top here that it's an official model that we can use. It's been used by 6.3 million runs, and it's around that 4 cents per output. So once we've generated the image, as you can see here, we then need to go through and actually download it. So we're actually capturing that JPEG file that we just showed you earlier on, which is this one here, by sending our request off with our API key to capture that download of output here. As we can see on the right hand side, we've then got that image to be able to use. Again, to store it in our Airtable, we need to convert it to a base 64 format, because then we can go through and upload it into Airtable using the same command as we saw a bit earlier. We're going to be uploading it into our Seedream image 4 column, which if I come back across is going to be this one here. So now we've got the 2 different columns to be able to store those specific images. If we come into here, we're uploading the attachment, and we've also passed across that record ID that we sent across in the first place. So we're going to send it to that specific record. If we come further down here, you also have to make sure you've added your API credentials from Airtable, so it will be able to send the request across. And then down here, as mentioned, we're just uploading the file. So it's now saying it's a JPEG file. We've got the data, which is this base 64 format. As you can see on the right hand side here, goes on forever and ever and ever. Lots and lots of information. We're also just specifying a file name, which in this use case, I've just put as the ID of that request that we're going to get back from Replicate. So if I come down here, as you can see at the bottom, it's just a bit of numbers at the moment. But if we wanted to recall it in the future, that means we've got the ID, so it's nice and easy. We're then doing the exact same for our NanoBanana at the bottom. So when we merge the two together, we're going to have all of this ready to go. So we're going to have the URL of the NanoBanana and the Seedream 4 images that we've uploaded. So that's going to be the first part. We've been able to go through and actually generate the images and store them in Airtable. The next part is we want to go through and generate the videos. So in here, we're going to be sending across the Airtable ID, the URL that we've just got back from Seedream, the one that we've got from NanoBanana, so the URLs that we've just generated by storing both of those images in our Airtable, as we can see here, to then go through and generate the request later on. We've also got the request from the user here, so we know what they're looking to get out. If we then come across to the workflow, again, we're step by step walking it through. We're going to open up that request that we just sent through so you can see exactly how it works. So if we scroll in here, we got that data being sent across, the Seedream URL, the NanoBanana image URL, the request, and that Airtable record ID. We analyze that image because, as I mentioned, the chef is only going to be as good as the ingredients. If it doesn't know what's in the image, the quality of the ad is going to be poorer. So in here, again, just describe what it is, nice simple text to get a really detailed output that we can then pass across into our basic LLM module to get the output. We're going to combine both of these analysis of the images so we can see the description of the Flux image, and at the bottom here, we can see the description of the NanoBanana. I know it's that way round because on the left, you'll see that we've got input 1 up the top here, and then input 2 below. Input 2 and output 2 will be NanoBanana, and then input 1 and subsequently output 1 will be for Seedream. We're going to come out of here. We're then going to aggregate them together so that we've got both of them in an array so it's nice and easy to process. We're then going to come into our AI video prompt. In here, we're saying what the request from the user is. So right at the start here, we've pulled across that request from the user. At the aggregate stage, we've then passed across the description of the Seedream image and pulled across the description of the NanoBanana image. So now the AI has got the context on both images. In here, we've then got a nice detailed prompt that helps go through and gets the best outputs possible for Google Veo 3. We're clearly calling out the hero focus. Is it the human? Is it the object? We've got some composition, some environment, lighting, style, mood, ad flow, and authenticity. So you'll be able to go through and completely tailor this to your specific use case. Maybe you've got a nice style that you really like to use. You could also go through and change it. So if you wanted to do the JSON prompting instead, I've got another video on the channel that covers that in more depth. You could change that to add it in here. We've also said that we want a specific output, so it's much easier to send off the video generation requests afterwards. To find that, we're going to come out of here, down to the structured output. And as you can see here, we're asking for item 1, which is going to be our Seedream video prompt to be returned. And then we're asking for the second one here, which is going to be our NanoBanana video prompt. And then as you can see on the right hand side here, if I change it to JSON, we've got both of those outputs for us to use later on. And this is really good because now we're able to say that we've got the description from Seedream and the description from NanoBanana, so we can really tailor the outputs and the videos that we want later on. We're then going through and storing those prompts in our Airtable. So to find that, again, we're matching by the ID that we had right at the start here, and we're just putting them both together. To see that, we're going to come back across. We'll come to the right hand side here, and if we open this up, we'll see both of the prompts. Again, as mentioned a bit earlier, now we can go through, see what gave us a really good output, a bad output, what we want improved or lessened or anything in that space as well. We're going to come back across though and just walk through the last couple of bits. We're also going to be using Replicate, which I mentioned a bit earlier on, for Google's Veo 3 fast model, which is $1.20 per output, or Google's Veo 3 model, which is going to be around $3.20 per output. But these are both market leading in the outputs that they're going to provide you at the moment, because they've also got audio as well as video that they're going to give you. So we'll come back across into here. And then once we've got both of those results back, we need this get URL here to process the rest of the request. So we're just going to capture both of those in here and send them back. If we come back into our main workflow, what we can then see is if we walk through step by step, that exact output. So if we go through the NanoBanana, for example, what we're looking to do is use the URL to trigger this request. We're sending it off to get that URL status. On the right hand side here, you'll see the current status of the output. The key part we're looking for is this URL output down here, because that's the actual MP4 file for us to be able to use. If we come out of here, we're then going through and actually downloading it using the output URL, and it will show you in here that actual video. We're then going through converting it down to that base 64 format and then being able to upload it into our Airtable through the same request. We're saying in this use case, it's going through to the NanoBanana UGC video column, which if I come back across, is going to be this column here. Now, if I come back across, what you'll be able to see is that if we come down here, we're also having to send our API tokens here, and we're going to make sure that our data that we're sending across is going to be MP4 file, and we're giving it the base 64 format. We're then just giving it the ID and saying it's a NanoBanana video for the file name. If we come out of here, that's how we're able to go through and on autopilot get some amazing UGC videos generated. So what is Seedream 4 really good at? Well, it's got lots and lots of control over the output being produced. We can get it to be a higher resolution than NanoBanana because we've got control over it being 1K, 2K or 4K, and it's a little bit cheaper at 3 cents per output versus 4 cents per output for Google's NanoBanana. However, I found that NanoBanana is a bit more reliant for the faces that we're going to be doing across many use cases. And if you're not very good at prompt engineering or you're still getting to grips with it, it's better at following those simple instructions. So as mentioned, we've now got 4 use cases which we can go through and we can compare the outputs from both. So if I come across, the first one we're having is if we're uploading the image of this lady and we've got the jumper as well. So first thing I noticed straight away is the one from Seedream 4 looks a lot more realistic. It's got much more colors. They're much richer. The pink on the actual hoodie looks a bit washed out in NanoBanana versus a bit deeper and richer within Seedream 4. What it has done though is it hasn't been consistent in the stitching. What we could see in here is that it started to make it like a darker stitching pattern versus the original image. NanoBanana has really followed that prompt adherence and it's made sure that that stitching is still almost white or, pink, so it blends in nice and easily. I think that face is definitely a bit more consistent with our original image from Google's NanoBanana and the hair and much, much more as well. I do think though that they've both done an amazing job at keeping the consistency around the flowers on the arms. They're both the same colors, they're still making sure that they follow the same pattern, there's still the 4 of them on each of the arms, of course apart from the one that's rolled up at the end. The next one here is I wanted to test out using our soda can on the left hand side here to put it in different locations. I found that the quality of the image again is much better from Seedream 4, so I'd probably use that for a lot more of the use cases. They both were incredibly good at keeping the adherence to that original can, so I'm not worried about both of them there. My favorite out of all of these is probably the top right, with the soda can on the park bench at the beach, but let me know your favorite below. Which one do you prefer? Or actually, could we push it a little bit further? And have you got another idea to test out? The next one I wanted to do was a really popular one around changing the style. So as you can see on the left-hand side there, we just had two people standing on the beach. I then asked it to put it into a more Pixar Disney styled output. What was really interesting is I think Seedream 4 nailed this. The output looks incredibly good quality. It's really kept the adherence to the original image, even including the wafty bit at the front of his hair and her dress, his outfit. So I think it looks incredibly realistic. It's also actually gone through to that Pixar and Disney style. I was really disappointed to see how NanoBanana performed in this, because I think it's not followed the prompt at all, it's changed the picture angle, it's not really done what we asked it to do. So I definitely make sure to use Seedream 4 for that specific use case in the future. The next one, I wanted to come through and test it around logos on objects. One thing that I found really interesting is just how much better Seedream 4 was this for the holistic image. I really liked the way that it did the handbag at the start there. I think the handbag itself looks more realistic than the NanoBanana, and it's really difficult to get it matching in the grooves in the pattern, but it definitely nailed it. I will have to concede though that I think the actual quality of the perfume bottle's logo is better on Google's NanoBanana, but I think the overall setting is better in Seedream 4. So I think a point would go to both there. I think that they were almost there on the actual logo for Seedream 4. Maybe it's more of a 7 out of 10. For the next one, I think it's really hard to tell between the two which one I would go for. I really like the style of the actual jumper, the logo, the depth of colors and scene setting that Google NanoBanana has done, but the person looks a lot more realistic in the Seedream version instead. So I think we'd probably give the person output to be a really good score with Seedream 4, but the overall aesthetic would actually be maybe NanoBanana. But again, really keen to hear your thoughts on that. And that's how Seedream 4 stacks up against Google's NanoBanana. Just a quick run through to show you what's possible. Make sure to come across to the community and check out everything that we've got. Stay tuned for more around AI, automation, and have a great day.